Hello and welcome to episode 12 of Rugby Nats. Nothing last week, we all had a week off, which was nice. But following on from the episode 2 weeks ago, great response to the discussion about retaining players from university, Mike. I know you don't do social media, but trust me, the figures are good. Just under 3,000 views and a load of likes. And, a lot of thanks, really, because there's sort of one-line type normal comments on social media were there, but we had some great interaction with Steve Whitehead, Phil Curd, who's same as me, great fan of GMS, not Georgie Finnegan, Gary Cunningham from Grasshoppers. He had a lot to say about it, and Grasshoppers seemed to go to extraordinary lengths to not only engage with the players at university, but also with their families, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that they appear to be a very, very progressive club in their efforts to retain players, especially homegrown players who have gone off to university. You know, he indicates there that they invite the parents to pre-match lunches to get them up to the club, even when the lads themselves aren't playing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that type of thing, and also the way they keep in contact with the players, and how they bring them back for matches over the Christmas and Easter period. I think all of that's to be applauded. It's to be congratulated. I mean, they are in an ideal position, being the west of London. I mean, when people finish university, it's obviously an area they'll gravitate towards. But I think, nevertheless, it's. I was very, very impressed with it, and I think it showed a radical thought process on the desire to keep and retain players. I really do. I think it's to be complimented.
There's another guy, Danny. Thanks very much for contacting us, Danny Badham. He's been looking at this for quite some time, and he put quite a large comment on here. And to sort of sum it up, because it was a large comment, to sum it up, what he's sort of saying is that every club's got to be, that there's no silver bullet for this, because you've got people like Grasshoppers, close to London, people returning, but then you've got people more rural. And I think you made the point when we were having the discussion in the first instance, you know, what's to attract lads or ladies from a rural environment to go back when they've got a degree in their back pocket, and the money is in the big towns.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's. I think the point he's made is that there's not one solution for everyone. And again, clubs themselves, I think, have to be quite radical in their proposals to retain players and how they operate. And I think it's just something they've got to keep on thinking about, and something they've got to be encouraged to do. I think the RFU needs to be onto this all of the time now, our desire to keep this age group 18 to 24 in the game. And we've got to see proposals, radical proposals, on how we achieve this and how we can advise clubs and assist clubs in doing it.
There was a guy, it's the last comment actually I was going to mention, Alistair Buckle. He got in touch and he talked about the old days and how they used to go to great lengths then, but he was talking about engaging with the players at university. And I was thinking, well, hang on a minute, we've got this network of CRCs, and they're I think with Reading, they're coaching at Reading Uni, they're coaching the ladies there. And
they do the ladies.
But they're in and out of these universities. And I wonder whether there's any mileage in them becoming a little bit more proactive and saying to the lads, what are you doing at Christmas? Get back to your clubs, sort of support the work that the clubs are reaching out, but get it underpinned by the CRCs that are in and out of these universities like no one's business.
Well, yeah, I think it should be part and parcel of their duties. I think they have to do that. I mean, with Reading University, they're linked specifically with Reading Enzians.
Yeah.
However, we've always encouraged the boys at Christmas to get games in, to go back to their local clubs, in the summer to train with their local clubs. So we've undertaken that as an independent club. But if we can be doing that through the auspices of the union and the union's representatives, I think that's going to, make even further improvements.
Well, after the interaction and talking to you the other week, I've gone back to my own club and we had our rugby committee meeting last night, and it was brought up there, this wonderful chat show. But they said, we could do more, and one of the things we're going to try this year, although it's going to be sort of a bit lastminute.com, there's quite a lot of breaks for level 5, level 6 and below clubs. And take my own club, for example, we've got a 4-week break over Christmas, which when you're on a bit of a roll, throw in a load of mince pies and port and all that sort of stuff, it makes the first game in January quite tough.
Yes.
And no one's going to be up for a friendly. So what we've decided to do is, lastminute.com, as I say, is we're going to try and get all our returning students and some of the older Colts or recently ex-Colts that have not moved on to take on the club, like an all-stars team. So you get returning students and a few mates, take on the younger 13 players and sort of put together like a club bar side. Just to get a run out.
Well, it's one solution. Absolutely, one solution.
Have a few beers afterwards,
Yeah, and I think it keeps people interested, and also it reminds them where they've come from. It reminds them what their club is all about, and I think that is so important.
Yeah.
I mean, I would also, I do believe this idea that if each club, again, organised themselves so that they had a universities officer, whom then perhaps looks for fixtures over the Christmas and Easter period, or similar to the tournament that you ran. I think that would also benefit it immensely.
One of the things, this show hasn't got a main topic, although we are going to, having said that, we're going to come on to talk about something in particular in a moment. But we're looking for the things that you want us to interact with and any ideas that you've got. So please don't hesitate to come in with a topic. Doesn't matter how sensitive it is, because we can always ignore you if it's too sensitive.
No.
Come up with a topic, and I'm sure that we'll manage to get it on. But Mike, we're just going to revisit briefly this paying players business, and look at the various different levels. Now, at the base of this, bottom line, they don't want anybody from level 6 or below to pay.
Yeah.
And the steps are there to take it out. But the thresholds for levels 3, National 1, 4 and 5, 150,000 for level 3, with 25 grand for the coaching staff. Level 4, £100,000 with 20 grand towards the coaching staff. And level 5, 50 grand with £15,000 towards the coaching staff. Is that enough? Too much?
Well, firstly, before I answer that question, when we spoke about it before, we were talking about it from a playing perspective in terms of the payment of players. And I was quite interested that was one episode that, again, was quite emotive, and the response, I read a number of the tweets, and I felt that, and on Facebook, and I felt that there were people who were quite passionate about not actually paying players at all, probably at the top level, the professional level, but taking the payment out of the game. Now, I respect those views, I really do, but my point with all of this, and this is why I'm not really going to answer the question about the salary cap, is how are they going to enforce it? Because 150 to one club might mean nothing to another in terms of they might have an income which they're prepared to use, which will go above that. But what actually is going to happen if you break these recommendations? Well, the idea is that you actually receive no RFU funding.
Coach trips, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, fine. But how are you going to enforce it? Can you tell me this? Because, what exactly... They say they're going to look at the books. Well, as well as I do, there's ways to get around that. Quite legal ways, incidentally. And I'm not suggesting that clubs will or do break the law at the moment, but in terms of tax. But there are ways of, of not actually fulfilling these requirements, and that's what really just worries me. It's just a waste of time. I would have thought we'll have to have a department to actually monitor.
You made that point last time. It's like a growth industry.
It is, and it's bureaucracy. Let's increase bureaucracy. I mean, what we're going to do then? On a Saturday afternoon, we'll see somebody with a false moustache and beard and glasses, sitting in the corner looking for brown envelopes to make notes on, perhaps checking the changing rooms afterwards to see that there's no loose cash bin.
They're just going to put it back on the club. They're just going to say to the clubs, you
volunteers,
prove you're not.
Volunteers. Here are something else to do.
Yeah.
And also, I think the other thing they will do is that those clubs who do receive grants for travel, I wouldn't be surprised to see if the money is taken from that little pot to pay for this new Bureau of Investigation. I think they've got to be quite clear on how they're going to apply these sanctions, because otherwise, to me, it is just hot air.
I just made up an acronym on the trot, but I better not say it on there. with that, what the department could be called. You can see that Mike, and he's not alone, has got quite a lot of passion about that particular subject. Something else, just throwing it out there for you that you might like to look at. I've seen a lot of traffic over the last couple of days, particularly since the last weekend, and it's been something that's wound me up a treat, managing with the ladies' game. There's been quite a lot of traffic around the cancellation of games or postponement, which the ladies are allowed to do. That you don't necessarily take a points hit. You are allowed to rearrange through amicable channels, which is fine. But the bit that interests me is not so much the level of cancellation, but it's the outside pressures, because a lot of the ladies were commenting saying, we've got exterior problems like childcare, we've got family commitments, work commitments, all this sort of stuff. And unlike some of the higher level men's team, they're passionate about it, but at the end of the day, it's still a hobby, and it's not something that they would forego the cost of a babysitter for, or something like that.
Understandable.
Understandable, yeah. But the point I'm trying to make is the outside pressures on not just the ladies' game, on the men's game as well, because there was some traffic about an increasing number of men's games being cancelled. I think the stuff I saw was referring particularly to Cornwall and Somerset. But I know, hands up, I've cancelled a couple of games. Outside pressures, that's what I want to really hear from you about. But anyway, this is really just as like a catch-up exercise.
Yeah, and I mean, we'd love to hear your comments going forward, what you'd like to discuss or would you like us to discuss, and obviously feedback on this evening. And remember, the club season gets underway again on Saturday, so get along to the local clubs and get behind your team. Thanks very much for watching.
Cheers.